Mr. Gilroy, we're caught up with you once again. Where in the county are you today?
Well, this morning, Bill, I'm up on the access road to the two windmills in East Amherst, across from the Amherst Golf Course. And for those citizens of Cumberland County that have never taken a very quick side trip when they're coming and going from Amherst up here, I believe I can see Rick clean almost into Moncton from up here, and almost to PEI. I can certainly see the tower towards Bayfield, New Brunswick at a great distance from here. Absolutely outstanding view. So
it's almost in your backyard.
Yes, you're correct. I'm at the bottom of the hill, not the top. That's the difference.
Yeah, you can't see what you just described from your house, not from your deck, but you can when you climb the hill.
That's right. It's amazing, the elevation. You never would ever believe that the elevation changes so rapidly just coming a couple hundred meters up this access road.
You're right.
It's just crazy. So.
Yeah. Now, speaking of crazy, you had a crazy busy kind of meeting yesterday, and unfortunately for a lot of people, the technical difficulties you had with your broadcast system was such that none of us could see the meeting, could take part in the meeting. And so I'm going to rely a fair bit on what I've learned since, and you can correct me where I'm wrong. There were a bunch of items, to be sure. A couple that stood out for me was a review once again of the dangerous or unsightly properties bylaw. You need a complaint in order to begin the process. And correct me if I'm wrong, you've been getting rather pushy, heavy with regard to this bylaw over the last, say, 8 years, and cleaned up a lot of properties that otherwise would not have been cleaned up. And then you identified a problem. People who've been cited for having an unsightly property, they do the minimum to clean it up, and within a matter of months, they're back at it again. Another complaint about unsightly property. It seems to me that you've added something different that wasn't there before, and that is you can actually issue a ticket.
Absolutely. And the other part of that too, Bill, is that we can monitor these properties and premises on a go-forward basis for 12 months after the initial complaint, which, we had not been able to do before. Every complaint had to be individualized and so on. And the other thing was when we first got elected in 2020, the bylaws were such that all complaints had to come from citizens, and some citizens were, loath to do that. With the fear that the person they complained about would find out that it was them, and there's all of those type of impacts that go with that. And we switched some stuff up that the councilors, the members of council, can now do complaints on their own as they see fit, and take the flak for it themselves accordingly, if that's the case. And the other thing too is, like I say, stretching the 12-month monitoring out will hopefully get us to a point with some of the key problem ones, to be able to deal with them a little more harshly, to try and get them to get in line and toe the line like everyone else is expected to. So,
yeah, we sometimes call them the frequent flyers.
Yes, I agree. There are a number of them, or so it seems, and every day something crops up, and certainly in my travels around the county, I hear about it on a very regular basis from citizens and all over the place. And we got to stay on top of this. It's one of those things that they're cumbersome in the point of view that it takes some time. You have to investigate. It's it ties up a lot of staff time to investigate all these things and document, and then then have the unsightly premises hearing and push it forward. And then so now, instead of, again, the repeat offenders back and back and back, we'll at least be able to follow them and monitor them for a 12-month period and do something about it. And hopefully it will get to a spot where we're all happy.
And do something about it being the operative word, that's for sure. Having said that, there's an issue going on in Pugwash, as you probably well know, at the brand new hospital in Pugwash, where emergency services seem to have been upset once again, and an old argument comes back. Are we dealing with emergency care or urgent care? Is it about paying doctors or not about paying doctors? And it seemed like an issue that would not come before you, but it did. The councillor for District 3, Jennifer Hotelling, tabled a motion yesterday requiring council to write to the Department of Health and Wellness requesting a public meeting in Pugwash to address whatever it is that's going on. And I find, first of all, that it would come through your council to request such a meeting. But the other part, and you may know full well that I pushed for such a meeting here better than a year ago when people were afraid that the Nova Scotia Health Authority was going to do away with ER services in the new hospital. It wasn't even built yet at that point. And we had a public meeting and were assured that there would be providing ER services. But this letter, according to the motion, is going not to the Nova Scotia Health Authority, but going to the Department of Health and Wellness, which is a kind of different approach. Is there a particular reason why go to them rather than the authority?
No, not really. I mean, a copy of it probably will end up at the authority also, but the whole reality of this situation is that there are a number of concerns from the citizens, a large number, lots of unanswered questions at this point. And, when you get to see the video of yesterday's council meeting, you will certainly hear a number of comments from various councillors and certainly a rather large comment from myself in that I said to, Councillor telling us, and your name was mentioned actually, Bill, yesterday that you would push this forward. So I'll give you a shout out for that. For previously, you may not have been given a shout out on that a year ago. But the other side of this is, what happened yesterday, what happened last week is all old news. What we want to know is what's the plan going forward to solve the problem. And I think that's the biggest question in the community. I mean, I get what's going on with the powers that be. They're trying to address an issue where many thousands of Nova Scotians do not have a family doctor. And by moving this plan into motion, they were hoping that some of these individuals would pick up patients and help alleviate that side of the system. Whether that is what happens at the end of the day, that remains to be seen. I haven't got all the numbers across the province as to how many people have taken up on the program and how many people have decided not to. And there's, again, a number of unanswered questions. And I think this, it behooves them to come to the community and explain what they're doing firsthand and tell us what the go-forward plan is, more importantly. What's the future? Where's the future and how's it going to look? Because right now it seems like nobody seems to know the answer to that question.
Well, I would kind of disagree with you. I think the Nova Scotia Health Authority knows the answer, but therein lies the problem. They are the problem, in my view. I thought it very interesting that you're writing to the Department of Health and Wellness. People may not realize we have a Department of Health. And typical department of the government with the deputy minister and staff and so on. And then we also have, at arm's length from the Department of Health, the Nova Scotia Health. And they're the people that are actually administrating the hospitals and the doctor programs and so on. And they're the ones that we have the problem with because they don't seem to answer to anybody. And they used to be called Nova Scotia Health Authority, and I've made a lot of hay in the sunshine about that very fact because they acted so authoritarian that they themselves realized they should change their name, but they didn't change their stripes. They may have changed the name, but they're still pushing people around, in my view. So I thought it very interesting. You're going to Health and Wellness to ask them what's the future, what's going on, and we may from that get a handle on who's the boss here. Is it Nova Scotia Health or is it Nova Scotia Department of Health?
I agree. Your comments about the authoritarian nature of it and whatever, but I also would, further add to that and say that that there seems to be a big disconnect here. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, we want to reconnect and take out the disconnect and have some meaningful conversation going forward. That would be the plan.
Well, I think it's interesting. I'm the guy that got the last public meeting in there, but I really literally had to involve the Premier to make them do it, because the Nova Scotia Health Authority were prepared to just tough it out. They couldn't care less. We had the meeting, we got the answers, and now they're going backwards again. So I think it's very interesting, and I applaud you for going instead to the guys who are causing the problem, go above them. And I'm hoping it is above, not parallel, because health and wellness is the department. So maybe we can get some real answers, and I applaud you for that. Look forward to a public meeting.
Well, same here, and I can hardly wait for the response.
Now, let's spend some money here. You had a great report yesterday about the needs of the fire service once again, and they need some new SCBAs, that's self-contained breathing apparatus. We all think of the firefighter going into the fire with a tank on his or her back and breathing through a mask, and that's what we're talking about. The SCBA is basically this whole system, and it requires there to be an air cylinder and the other equipment on their face. Surprisingly, 25 sets is going to cost about $281,000 or $86,000, I think it is actually. That's a lot of bucks for 25 sets. It includes 50 cylinders, by the way, because the firefighters will go in with a cylinder. It's all timed and very much regulated. They can't stay in longer than the air in the cylinder, so they would come out. Somebody else goes in, they change cylinders and perhaps get ready to go back in. So you need more cylinders than systems, but $286,000 is going to be on next week's agenda to make the purchase. Did you have any idea how much it was going to cost to outfit the fire service about, 4, 5, 6 years ago when you made the commitment to do it?
Oh, absolutely. All of that, a lot of the demands were contained in the Goudreau report, and, there was no bones about it, that it was going to cost around $2 million or more a year just to maintain the fire service, let alone catch up on apparatus and equipment and all of that. And as you saw in the capital budget this year, I think there's a little over $9 million allocated to the fire service in various spots, including setting aside $500,000 for future fire truck and apparatus investments and all of that. And interestingly enough, looking at those numbers from that tender yesterday, and it was actually $50,000 under budget, the tender.
Good deal.
Well, it does. It's a good deal, but it seems, like we look at that big number and we say we had anticipated that it would be $50,000 higher. So the reality of that is that we can use the extra there to purchase even more of this stuff over the next little while. Unlike that, other things that we perhaps potentially could save. Experience savings on this is a budgeted item. So, the savings on this original RFP can then be put onto another RFP in the fire service for something else or for more of this, which is, a good thing for that. But yes, we're very aware of where we're at with the fire service and the commitment that it will take. And we're committed to it. And this is all part of seeing the project through. So
I remember when that consultant's report came in, about 1,100 pages of recommendations, if I remember correctly. And I was in the fire service at the time. I've since retired. But at the time, I remember vividly the conversations with people in the fire service thought it's all talk. They have no idea how much this will cost them, and they didn't believe. And it was a commitment very firmly made by your predecessor, Mayor Murray Scott, and a commitment that you personally picked up and your council picked up. And I've been watching as you've built a couple of new fire halls, as you've bought brand new trucks, outfitted departments here, there, and everywhere. I think they're slowly coming to believe that you were serious. Are you getting any feedback at all, and certainly any positive feedback from the actual firefighters who were really so doubtful back in the early days?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're getting a lot of good feedback, both from the citizens and from the fire service itself. And when this all started back in, 2022, I think it was now, seems like forever ago, Murray Scott was very clear. When we sat down with council, we had the report and all of the recommendations, and we looked at the cost and whatever. And he had one thing that he said to us very clearly: we now have to decide whether we're in the fire service business or we're out. And this is where it lays right now, right here, right now. Are we in or are we out? And if we're in, this is the commitment that will mean we're in, and this is what it's going to take. And he was all for it and very clear about it. And council was, very informed of what it would cost and how long it would take, and absolutely committed to that whole plan. And you're seeing that again this year with the big number of 9 point some odd million being put into the fire service, and it'll take some time. It's not going to be happen overnight. That we'll get, but we will get to the point where where we really, really want to be, which is a modern, effective, well-funded, well-supported, and well-geared fire service from one corner of the county to the other.
And kudos to you. And I know you had a whole lot more on the agenda yesterday. There was a whole lot of discussion about repealing old bylaws and making new bylaws and so on. I mean, we only have less than a minute left. Is there anything that jumps out of that discussion you'd like to point out?
Not a whole lot. That's just basically house cleaning stuff all over the place. Where some of the things that we didn't clean up in the first go around with the bylaw work. We did a bunch of bylaw work a year and a half ago in Spring Hill and Parsbro, and then we went back and finished reviewing all of it, and most of them were old and archaic or needed a touch up or whatever. But the other thing I want to talk about too, Bill, yesterday Deputy Mayor Gould and I had the opportunity to go to Fox Harbor for the day, or most of it. We had to come back a little early for council at 2:30. But we went to the Empowering Cumberland event yesterday in Fox Harbor. And I want to give a really, really big shout out to Beth Peterkin, Keith Thompson, the County Chamber of Commerce, Julie Hoig, and the Sunset community for putting on an absolutely world-class event yesterday. It was a phenomenal day with a room full of phenomenal people, the tremendous speakers, and it was a really, really meaningful day. Deputy Mayor Gould and I on a traveling home yesterday, coming back to Napan, and all we talked about all the way back was how much it moved us, how informative it was. We talked about inclusivity, we talked about accessibility issues, and it really hit home for us because a week ago we had just passed our inclusivity and accessibility master plan, and now that we've passed the plan, it will be now time to put the plan in place. But a beautiful venue and an extremely well-run day yesterday. Hats off to the organizers.